Every day, hundreds of people pass through downtown Dallas without giving a second thought to the history that surrounds these streets. 53 years ago, on November 22nd, our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, was assassinated at this very spot. President John F. Kennedy and his wife Jackie Kennedy arrived in Dallas on the fourth stop on the 5-city tour. The president had hoped to win the hearts of Texans for the upcoming election. Kennedy was on his way to the Dallas Trade Mart, where he was scheduled to speak at a luncheon, but his drive through Dallas ended early with a sound that shook the country. Our beloved president had been shot. Security was in a state of chaos, and news quickly spread around the world. People were in shock and desperately wanted answers about who caused our president's death. Some say Lee Harvey Oswald shot him from the Texas School Book Depository, now the 6th Floor Museum, but others say there was a conspiracy. And this film, taken by Orville Nix, is the film they used to study the grassy knoll.
Mr. Nix, where were you on November 22nd, 1963?
Standing on the corner of Maine and Houston.
Gayle Nix Jackson, who was there that day, remembers how terrified her grandfather was.
And saw the president going down Elm by that time and got ready to take pictures, and that's when the shots began. Well, the Keystone had a grip on it, and my grandfather was so frightened. I mean, with the gunshots going off and people dive bombing around him, he was gripping the Keystone camera. He didn't even really know that he was taking pictures. And when it was all over, he kind of panned back. When he realized that he had the camera in his hand, he panned back over the grassy knoll area. But his film is the only one that shows the grassy knoll, that shows the assassination sequence, and then shows the afterwards of the assassination sequence. It's a very important film.
Using a Keystone K810 auto zoom 8mm camera, Orville Nix wasn't even sure he was filming that day. Afterwards, he and his son, Orville Nix Jr., watched the film dozens of times. Orville Jr. remembers his father believing something looked different after the film was developed and then confiscated by the FBI and returned 3 days later.
He said to me, or Dad said, yes, we do have pictures of assassination. And he said, the man at Dynacolor, and I can't recall his name, said, we need to get these to the FBI. They're calling for all still film and moving film of this, and you need to get this. And Dad said, well, I work there. I'll make sure they get it Monday. So he did. After viewing all of that, Dad did what he said he was going to do. When we got the film back from them several days later, Dad called me and he said, son, I don't think this is what we showed. It looks like something may have been done. And I said, well, Dad, if you feel that way, you need to ask them what did they do to it.
The FBI then took his camera and kept it for 5 months, returning it to him in pieces, where it could never recreate the scene again. The original film has not been seen since the House Select Committee on Assassinations convened in 1976. 53 years have passed since this awful incident, and yet many questions have never been answered. The biggest one being, where is the original film? However, the Nix Jackson family still fights for the truth and believes it will be discovered one day.
I'm in the process of writing another book right now about another untold stories that people don't know about JFK, but quite frankly, it will probably be my last nonfiction work because it's very hard. It's very hard to write nonfiction and make sure that you're checking the evidence, that everything is true, and that you're not putting out more lies, because we've had enough of those for 53 years. So I hope to write a book about finding the Nix film someday, and in that vein, we have an attorney working for us, and we have sued the government and the National Archives. We just want them to tell us where the film is. And before I die, it would be nice to find the Nix film, the Texas Rangers win a World Series, and I have a bestseller book for my kids.
Although we can't help Gayle's dream of seeing the Texas Rangers win a World Series, we can help with the quest of finding the missing Nix film by simply learning more about it, or even writing your local congressman. And maybe one day the 53-year-old question will be answered: was there or was there not a shooter behind the grassy knoll?